Hi there everyone, and welcome to the very first Reiterate video podcast. This is an exciting moment for me launching this, as it's been something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And on the first ever show, we have Brisbane entrepreneur Alex Ewart. Alex is a co-founder of Explorate, a new technology company that aims to completely change the way international freight is purchased and managed. Explorate is an online marketplace for shippers to directly interact with shipping lines, making the booking process as easy as search, choose, ship. They've raised over $300,000 in funding through various channels and are on track to create one of the most impressive businesses born out of River City Labs in Brisbane, Australia. They are really shaking up the industry, and this has the potential to be something really big. So for more information on Explorate, visit their website at www.explorate.co. Alex is a phenomenal guy and really great to chat to. Thoroughly enjoyed having him on the show, and I'm sure we will get him back as his business continues to develop. Now, this show is sponsored by On The Day Films. They've kindly donated their time to put this edit together. On The Day Films are a local Sunshine Coast film production company that make promotional and drone video footage affordable for business owners. If you're looking for a fantastic aerial shot of your business, give these guys a call. For more information, you can visit onthedayfilms.com. So in this show, we focus our attention on some of the challenges entrepreneurs and business owners face and the tools and techniques you can use to overcome this. Now, it does start off a little bit somber, but don't get us wrong. We absolutely love what we do. We just wanted to share a frank opinion on some of these challenges and some of the less glamorous elements of being in business. Things do start to take a bit of a positive turn towards the end, but unfortunately, due to a technical issue with our camera, it did suddenly stop filming, so it does end a little bit abruptly, unfortunately. I'm devastated I can't show you the full ending because it was a beautiful conclusion to our conversation, but we mentioned in the podcast, failure is common and we learn from these mistakes, so I can assure you with every episode, these are just going to continue to become more refined and improve with the release of every new episode. So I'm absolutely over the moon to have the first one out. I'm very thankful to have Alex on the show, and I look forward to getting more people around Brisbane and the whole of Australia on future episodes. I hope you too enjoy the episode. Please let me know your feedback via Facebook. You can search us at reiterate_media or email me directly at hello@reiterate.com.au. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our email mailing list so you never miss an episode. So, without further ado, please enjoy. And we are live. First Reiterate podcast. We have Alex here, who not only is a phenomenal business person, upcoming entrepreneur, one of Brisbane's rising stars, but also happens to be one of my best mates. This is an easy person to interview and get started, mate. Welcome.
Cheers, thank you very much.
So, Alex, I wanted to get you on board for the very first Reiterate podcast because you are going through something that a lot of people dream of, a lot of people think maybe is impossible. I mean, we'll touch on what Explorate is and what you do, but you know, you came from someone that was earning close to a six-figure salary. Mm-hmm. You had a long-term relationship with a girlfriend, now your fiance, and you had more than enough money to buy, not just a deposit for a house, but quite a nice house at that. You decided, instead of taking that route where you would go, like what everyone else does, you went on a whim and you chose to create a new startup. Tell me first, what was running through your mind when you were making that decision-making process?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a really good question. The main driver in all of this, and this voice in the back of my head started about 2 years ago, and what that voice was is, Alex, what would 80-year-old Alex think? In all my decisions that I've made up until this point, knowing that I'm 27 and you know, knowing that it only gets harder to go into something like this, would 80-year-old Alex think, well done Alex, you stayed in that safe career, you didn't jump outside the box at all, you just did exactly what was expected and what you were very comfortable in doing. And that said, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful way to live your life because you'll be very comfortable and very, very happy. Or would 80-year-old Alex look back and say, Alex, well done, you took a risk, it either paid off or it didn't, it doesn't matter, you tried, at least you gave it a shot. Yeah. And that was the conviction, that was what gave me the conviction to go, I've got to go through with this and I've got to do it. As you said, I've got to leave my blue chip mining job, which a lot of people were looking at me going, Alex, what on earth are you doing? This is the way you live, this is life. Aren't you happy with that? Isn't it not enough? And that question of asking what my 80-year-old self would think said no, it's not enough. So that's what really got me to go forward and go into something like that.
Was it an itch that you had from a really young age, or was this something that more came on as you were older and then you started maybe doing more research and you kind of, it grew on you slowly?
I think it'd be ignorant to think that it didn't come from a young age, especially with my parents being entrepreneurs in the restaurant business. And I think that would be a subconscious way of it happening. So I saw that my dad and my mum worked really, really hard. I saw them work really, really long hours, but I also saw the flexibility that working for yourself gave you.
Yeah.
And also the fruits of the labour that come when you have a successful business and you can make an exit like they did. And not that the games to retire early, but they did. I had my father in my life and my mother a little bit later on, full-time, when most other people's parents were working. So.
Yeah.
Again, that was a subconscious as a kid thinking, gee, that's all right. And then also that melded on when I got into the corporate life. I got into I left uni, I left school, I got a good grade, I went to uni, got a degree, and I got into the corporate job. I got my graduate program, which is the well-trodden path of life, right?
Yes, yeah.
And it didn't stack up to what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And that was really what drove me to think, okay, what else is there then? If I can't see myself in 10 years and go, yeah, that's exactly what I want. That's who I want to be, and that's where I'm going to be comfortable, then I had to make a change.
Yeah, and that was the moment. Did you get a lot of mentorship and support from your parents, and were they positive about the idea of you branching out and doing this? Or, like a lot of parents, including mine when I was looking at branching out for Iterate, they were a bit worried. They were concerned because they know the difficulties that you face when you're starting up a business,
yes.
especially in the startup space. Mm-hmm. And, rightly, they get concerned for your welfare and your being and the security and that a job offers you, and the fact that you have a stable wage and you can buy a house and you can start a family and not go through some of these really potentially dark times. Mm-hmm. You can understand how they think that way. Well, like for you, what was your experience with how your parents reacted to when you first told them the decision?
When I told them the decision, the big day for me was when I called them and said I quit my job.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, I ran my idea past my parents for months, and they had thought they came with an AK-47 to punch holes, thinking they'd found the reason why this idea is not going to work. So I had so much validation up until this point. I had to answer so many questions as to why I think this is going to work and why I'm going to leave so much behind to try this. So when it came to the point where I said, guys, I'm quitting my job to try this, it was only good feedback. But it didn't come without its, as you said, the drawbacks. Because as you said, these are all things of life these are good things: a comfortable job, a happy relationship, a lovely place to live in Brisbane, Australia. And to leave all that behind, absolutely. Everyone always asks, why? Why are you doing this?
How long, for me, we went through similar paths. We went to the same school. Both of us did academically quite well. We went through, did university, both did well at university. We both happened to do an exchange, albeit in different places. You in Germany, Paris, myself. We came back, we got the stable careers. I joined the big brand in the marketing role, went from coordinator all the way to digital marketing manager for just under 4 years. And yourself, you moved up the ranks and had some great career success as well. For me, I was comfortable in my role, earning a decent wage, loved the people I work with, had great mentorship, had great abilities to learn and leverage off the size and the scope of the work that the agency were doing. And in the back of my head, I was always I wasn't comfortable. I still had that itch.
Yes.
Yourself, how long was that period that you had that, you were still working and grinding, but you had that itch that you wanted more? And also, second part to that question, how long were you working for when you had the idea that you were going to quit and you continued to do so?
Yeah, so the itch started when I had my graduate job. And because what I was able to see at that point is I could see my manager, their manager, the manager of Asia Pacific and the manager of the world. And not one bit of working for a corporate in any of those positions interested me, because I didn't aspire to be that. Whether that's whatever those positions bring, or whether you're always working for other people, something about that started going, Alex, this isn't for you. This isn't what you want to be. I'd prefer to own a bakery up on the Sunshine Coast than work as an Asia Pacific product lead for something. So that itch started straight out of uni, because I think not that you're too young whilst at uni, but you're just absorbing all this knowledge at university of what business is, what it actually means, what marketing is, what the finance part of it is, everything of business you don't quite know until you get out into the real world. And that's I think that's I've learned more in the last 6 months of starting my own business than I did in my 3-year university degree.
Yeah.
And I think that whilst the university degree was absolutely priceless, this 6 months of what I'm doing right now is extremely priceless. So when I was a graduate, I guess you start thinking, okay, so what else could I do? And it took me 3-4 years of my jobs to find something. I think, okay, well, actually, Alex, I think you're onto something here. This could be something. And then that's when your validation starts. You start going out to people within your network and then slowly outside your network saying, hey, what do you think of this? And be honest here. And getting that feedback and for it all to be positive enough to say, you convinced me to say, Alex, go, give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I made the decision probably 2 months prior to quitting my job, and that 2 months was the hardest mental battle I've ever faced, because you have the right and the left side going, Alex, this is what God on earth are you thinking, because you've got a great thing going. You know, I'd look at my house, I'd look at my girlfriend, I'd look at the city that I worked in and think, why the hell am I jeopardizing any of this?
Well, even just your savings that you
exactly,
as
that's
well.
right.
And you worked really hard to get to that position.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, for the risk of throwing that all away, that's a big decision to make, and just spending that money. Do you buy a house, or do I use this money to be able to start something that I truly believe in?
Yeah, that's right. And that is a mental battle that you'll continue to face into entrepreneurship. And this is something that I learned because I left my job, my corporate job, without the promise of ever earning a wage. So, you know, the months start ticking over, and instead of receiving a paycheck, you're seeing money go out. Just for simple cost of living, you cut all of the fat out of your life, but you still see that savings that was once X now coming down to Y.
Yeah.
And you're still no closer to earning revenue. You're still no closer, and it just goes down and down and down. And every dollar that you're spending to every dollar that you were going to be earning, you know, that's always judging against each other. Am I doing the right thing? And then it just gets wider and wider and wider. Yeah. So that's but when you start having a couple of wins, there's no greater emotion than winning for yourself than winning for when you're working a part of the company, if that makes sense. So as you know, you've had a couple of really early big wins now, and the feeling that's in here beats any feeling that would ever be up there. And you can't explain that unless you're doing it for yourself. Yeah,
I totally agree. I mean, that's one of the emotions that I've felt since starting Reiterate. I mean, I'm doing some of the longest hours that I've ever worked, and a lot of the time I am exhausted, and there are those really down periods, but there are also those really up periods that give you that motivation and incentive to keep going. You often hear entrepreneurs talking about they're working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, which I've tried to do, and in practice I do struggle to hit those kind of figures. You know, I'm still working Saturdays and some Sundays, but 80 hours is a big commitment. But I think the only way you can really do that is to have that inner drive and to then put in the work and have that direct response of, I put in this and now I've got this out.
Yeah,
and that's something that is difficult to get within the corporate structure.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that was one of the things for me. I was starting to, even though I love my job and I love my work, I felt like I had more in me. But the problem was the incentive structure wasn't there for me to give more. Because obviously I've got my bonus incentive, which I was hitting all my KPIs anyway. I've got my weekly wage, and I was smashing my KPIs and getting very good reviews. So my ability to put in even more, there was no, like, at least fiscal incentive to do so. Or, you know, the intrinsic incentive of, you know, good job, Justin, was great, but I was already kind of achieving that. So I probably had another 25% to give.
Yes, of course.
You know, since moving into Reiterate, I'm now giving 100% or 110%.
Absolutely.
And that is something that is unique to being a business owner, unique to the entrepreneurship space. You know, we've talked a lot about some of these benefits, but I want to ask you, I know that myself personally, I've had some dark times when you're going through this journey. You know, they are created through multiple things. You know, obviously you have your losses, but obviously one of the things that I perhaps underestimated is the amount of mental load that you're putting yourself under. The fact that instead of, you know, clocking in at 9, leaving at 6, and you know, going home watching Game of Thrones and, you know, kissing your girlfriend and feeling fantastic, you don't have that anymore. You are now waking up at 5, and even if you clock off at 5, your mind is not clocked off.
Absolutely.
And you are thinking about it constantly, and you're at breakfast with your friend, and you know, you're having a conversation, but in the back of your mind you're thinking about your pricing structure.
Yes.
Or, you know, at least for me, I found through this journey, switching off very challenging.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think it's, as an entrepreneur, you're constantly staring down the barrel. Whether you're staring down the barrel at success or failure, there you're 1 and 0. Like that's exactly, and you can't escape that. So I guess in our in our way, it's not whether I get my reporting to my manager by Friday afternoon because that's what's expected of me. It's I can wake up at 3 a.m. and I do wake up at 3 a.m. and you know the date where the money that you've raised in the startup runs out. And then that's I mean, we're in a healthy cash position, thankfully, but there's no other situation in work, unless you're an entrepreneur or you're a CFO, that you can know the day that your dream will either persist or whether it'll die. And it's invigorating, but it's also terrifying. So that really drives you, but that's also those things at 7 a.m. I wake up and I think I see the transactions going out, or I see the money coming in for whatever else. It's a drive that you can't get anywhere else, but that's a really hard one as well, because if you don't let that drive you, you're going to let it kill you.
Yeah.
Because you need to take all these bad energy, all the potential bad energy, and all things that can have a negative connotation to it, turn it into a positive and say, well, right, this is how I'm going to succeed, and this is why I'm going to succeed. Because if I don't get that sale, or if I don't get that right high that helps me build my product with the extra capability that it needs, this whole dream's over. And then that drives success. And if it doesn't, it's going to drive your eventual death.
Oh, couldn't agree more. Is there a particular moment, like, is there a one thing you can think of is that this is hands down the worst part of the journey that you've had so far?
I think a lot of uncomfortable conversations, be it with my co-founder, or with our CTO, or with, I'd openly talk, one of our investors was my parents. So we did the Steve Baxter of River City Labs said the 3 initial investors are the 3 Fs. It's either friends, families, or fools. And we got the 2 of them. So having hard conversations about the amount of equity you're going to give away for the money that you're going to take on, when it's your parents, it's a really interesting conversation. Or whether it's with big vendors or friends or anything, you're supposed to you have to put your big boy shoes on and not think someone's going to save me or someone's going to answer for me here, because this is what I believe in, and that's all you've got. You don't have a magic calculation that you can look onto this textbook and say X plus X equals Y, and that's why this company is worth this much, or this is why this is going to succeed. It's I believe in this, and that's all you've got to take on this. And there's a lot of really hard conversations around that, because you don't have a definitive answer to a lot of questions. It's just trust me on this. Just trust me that it's going to work. And there's a lot of I think it's the hard conversations that you never would have to have unless you're in the situation of being an entrepreneur, that you wouldn't have to face.
And I think one of the biggest things, I've had similar conversations, and then when I'm trying to similarly raise investment, and one of the things, and even when dealing with clients, one of the things that's a big fear that plays on your mind is the fear of disappointing people, especially when it's your parents. I mean, the last thing that you want to do is let them down.
100%.
And they bank on you and they believe in you, and that takes a load on your mind. But then again, when used correctly, can be a driving force.
I was going to say that. Absolutely right. I mean, you can't let what people think of you stop you from doing something. It's got to drive, because I'm not an outspoken person. I believe I'm quite humble in most of my things, but I've also got to you also have to have a bit of arrogance and confidence to think, I'm the right person for this, and believe in yourself that you are the right person for it. Because if you doubt yourself for a second, and then I've made that mistake, it leads down a very dark funnel of thought, because you start going, maybe I'm not the right person for this, and you start convincing yourself that you're not the right person to do this, when you've thought of this, you've quit your job, you've jumped into it, you've raised money, you've done absolutely everything you can to get a company to this point. Of course you're the right person for it. If you let yourself think otherwise, you've already lost the battle.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite topical at the moment. When you look at, Conor McGregor has really made this mainstream.
Absolutely.
His visionary outlook and his incredible sense of self-belief. And now a lot of people, it did come into fashion a little while ago when The Secret was released, and then, in my opinion, died off a little bit. But Conor McGregor has really allowed this principle to come back in the mainstream of this, this shoot for the stars and you might hit the moon kind of mentality and insane personal belief. And you look at what he's been able to achieve by having that. Yes. And there are, of course, some haters that think, he's arrogant, he's overly outspoken. But if you look at one of the core reasons behind his success is the fact that he's believed that. And I think myself, that's one of the most important things as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, is to have that self-belief. Because you mentioned one of the ways that to get investment is to have people believe in you.
Yes.
And if you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to believe in you.
Absolutely.
And if you are trying to make a sale as a salesperson or as a small business owner, and you can't allow your clients to believe in you, because you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to get the sale.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it's very important. I mean, some of these things that I've been doing, tools and tactics that almost sound a little bit cheesy, like things like visionary practice. It's like a form of meditation where you start imagining what you want to manifest, what you want to create in your life. You know, I think I put my headphones in. Generally, I listen to like binaural beats, and they are a type of, they send different types of waves through your brain. I'm not going to explain this scientifically perfectly, but I get at least great benefit. I immediately, within a minute or two, I can feel my mind relaxing.
Yes.
And then I start to do this visionary practice, and it is very, I find, beneficial for my mind as a form of meditation to both calm myself down, calm the chatter, calm my thoughts, think clearly, but also as a motivator, because I know where my end point is. I mean, I'm a big believer in you can't hit your target or you can't get to your destination if you don't see the map and you don't know where you want to go.
Oh, absolutely. I think that really paints how important frame of mind is.
Yeah.
And so whether when you're faced with a situation, and just back on Conor McGregor quickly, my co-founder's an Irishman, so Conor McGregor's a big name in our office. Conor's big thing is you win or you learn. You know, so you're not always going to win as an entrepreneur, but if you've got the tools to, if you face hardship, if you face a loss, or if you face what you perceive to be a loss, learn from it. Make it into a positive thing, because as like whether it's listening to the beats that affect your brain waves, or whether it's when you're faced with a situation that you've just got the right tools to learn how to cope with it and turn it into a positive. Because it's just so easy for things people say or things that happen to your business to affect you, to make you to step backwards. And when you're an entrepreneur as a business owner, you can't afford to step backwards. Whether it's 2 forward and 1 back, you can't take a backward step. Otherwise, it just ends. It's taking that 1 step towards the end.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Well, there's that saying, if you're not failing, you're not innovating enough.
Correct, exactly.
And it's super important in entrepreneurship and small business ownership to be failing. I mean, for me, I've got in my Evernote stored a list that's appropriately titled fuck ups.
Yeah.
And every time I make a mistake, I go, okay, oops, whether it was my mistake, whether it was a mistake because of my business system and something needs to be changed, or whether it was a mistake from one of my staff. On that point, there's a very good book called Extreme Ownership, by Jocko Willink, and I can't remember this. Leif Babin is the second author. And the premise of that book is that as a leader, as a manager, every mistake that happens is your fault.
Absolutely.
Perhaps not indirectly, but if your staff have made a fault, the reason that they've made that error is because you haven't obviously given them the correct blueprint or the correct instructions so that mistake can't happen.
Yep.
And so the key there is to, if they make a mistake, you change the system so that the mistake can't be made again, and you improve upon it.
Yep.
I'm a big believer, this is what I tell my staff, what I believe my manager instilled in me as well when I was working through my career, is you can make as many mistakes as you want, so long as you make the same mistake only once.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think a lot of that can be put down to professional growth as well. You'll make mistakes because you're just learning to be the operator that you want to be.
Yeah.
There's been multiple times that I've cold called clients or cold called potential vendors and absolutely butchered the pitch.
Yeah.
Ruined it, they weren't interested, I got hung up on. But the fact is, and that hits you really, really hard. Like that hurts right here, it hurts right here, it hurts down in your toes. Everything about it absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
But to be able to go, okay, so what did I stuff up then? What was it that made me feel this way? And you can really deconstruct a bad situation and say, well, if I make X changes here, whatever it might be, and as you said, put it into your file for fuck ups. Put it into the thing that says, I'm not going to do that again because I've made that mistake, I didn't like it, and it wasn't positive for the business.
Yeah.
But you did it, and you've got to own it. You've got to move forward from it.
100%. I think one of the key things that I learned early on, and one of the biggest recommendations I have for people, is that you need to document things. You need to document everything. Like for me, whether it's in my Google Sites as part of my staff intranet, or whether it's part of my Evernote for my personal filing, your brain doesn't have the capacity to learn and remember all these things, and you need to document them. Otherwise, you can't effectively make change and you can't effectively improve things.
Absolutely.
Number one piece of advice that I have for people, Evernote, phenomenal. I wrote that blog article that you would have read recently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't recommend it enough. It's one of the things that I also want to ask is, like, we've talked a lot about the darkness of entrepreneurship and some of the struggles, and I think that's something that a lot of people that have been through it understand, and it's maybe something that a lot of people that are thinking about doing it aren't quite prepared for. I probably wasn't quite prepared for it, how intense it can be. What's the biggest win you've had?
The biggest win, I think, so we're bringing on, and I don't want to bore people with the dynamic of international ocean freight, but we're dealing in an industry that hasn't changed in 70 years with multi-billion dollar companies. And that's all that's in the industry. So there's no little players that we can go in first and kind of get them to be a part of us. But we need to go in and affect change from the top level against absolute gorillas of industry. And to be able to go and pitch in meetings with managing directors and even be in a room with these kind of people and convince them and sell them a dream, our dream based on a concept that we've just caught up out of thin air, and to walk out of a meeting with my co-founder Conor and just almost be in tears. We're so elated that these guys have bought it. They've gone, this is great, this is fantastic. No one reason this is not going to work. That's elation that puts goosebumps in the hair and the back on your neck up, is that win of going, geez, we've got something here. We really have got something here. And it's not like I've come up with a business improvement at my job that's going to save me an hour of my week. It's selling a dream, and when you sell a dream and someone buys it, there is no feeling like it. I mean, you'd know this, right? You've noticed a position where you can come into your industry and really shake it up and really bring a good thing forward, and you're getting clients now. Like, that's a win. That's a huge win that you can't kind of put to anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of that, it's even for you at the moment, you don't even have that financial incentive. You're not getting anything back, just the intrinsic sensation you get from it. And for me, it's the same. We're getting clients on board, but it's not about the money. It's about building the brand and about building what we believe in and about implementing the business that I see in my head as the way forward and the way that it should be done.
Yeah, that's right.
It's one of the things that I put on the website. I wanted to create the business that I wanted to work for. I'm constantly striving for that. I'm constantly thinking about how can we improve this? What do we have to do differently? And I think for everyone, there's a bit of a temptation for people to separate small business owner and entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And I believe that the two are the same. Every entrepreneurship, startup starts off as a small business that no one knows about.
Exactly right.
And I think it's important for small business owners to really push themselves to think entrepreneurially. And to look for all these methods and tools and techniques that they can use that is going to help accelerate their growth and take them to the next level. You don't have to always stay as the small mum and dad cafe on the corner. You can start looking at what techniques you can implement. How could you pivot your strategy to improve the amount of clients that are coming through? What can you do with your pricing? Is the franchise model possible for you? Can you replicate this? Can we make it 1? Can we make it 10? These kind of things are ways that everyone can elevate the level that they're performing at. And in saying that as well, it doesn't have to be restricted to just people who are operating in business. Like, if you're very happy in your job, you love your job, if you take an entrepreneurial mindset, you can improve your performance, you can improve the amount of how much time you're spending on different tasks, you might have more opportunities for a pay rise or position increase. I really, yourself as well, I believe you believe this, is that entrepreneur, and that it doesn't have to be the title entrepreneur, but entrepreneurial thinking can really change the world and can make a huge impact on the way that we do things if people are open to expanding the way that they think and expanding the way that they do things and taking on board some of these strategies that may seem even a bit weird at first.
I couldn't agree more. I often fantasize about if Explorate died tomorrow and I had to go back to a corporate job, the ability and the way that you can think in certain situations with that entrepreneurial spirit absolutely changes everything, because no problem is too big for an entrepreneur, because you have to solve it. Where if you get caught in that certain corporate cycle, and I'm not saying all people in corporates are like this, but there is that certain bureaucratic, this is just the way things are done, this is just we've got to get approvals from X, Y, and there's a lot of formalities around that kind of stuff, where the entrepreneur doesn't care about what happens between B and Y, they're just getting A to Z. They just expedite the whole process to get something done. And as you said, like, that entrepreneurial thinking can be applied to anything, whether you're a sportsman, whether you're in career mode, whatever it might be. There is so much there that I think I'm so much better off now I'm not even there, I'm not even an expert in it, I'm still learning. But the entrepreneurial thought and the way to think outside the box is something that I'll apply to everything in my life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I make the joke that I think if I ever ended Reiterate, I could go into any role. I could be a doctor and nail it. You know, like there is nothing that can possibly be difficult enough.
Yes, exactly.
Because then I would look at what the task is,
Yep.
what are the best ways, how do I most effectively achieve this and get
Yes.
the best outcome.
Yeah, for sure.
Formulate a strategy, map it out. I don't even need someone to tell me. Like for me, it's almost like if I walked into a job and someone said, here's your job description, here's exactly what you have to do to perform,
Yeah.
these are the methods, and if you don't know anything, we're going to give you training so that you do.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, and
golden
that's it.
ticket,
Exactly.
jackpot.
Yeah. And you'll every 6 months we'll have a review and tell you how you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You
If
know?
you're not doing well, we'll give you another chance. And,
Exactly.
you know, then you can go for another 6 months, and we'll give you 3 warnings before you vote. I mean,
Yeah.
that's incredible. That's a
Yeah.
lot better than potentially losing all your money.
Oh, for
and,
sure.
You know, ending up like having to start all over from scratch.
Yeah, and I guess that leads into another really good thing that I found really helpful is having a good ecosystem and also a good mentorship group around me, because
Yeah.
you're used to having your quarterly or half yearly or yearly reviews that tell you, and they put you exactly in your position and say, this is how you've been tracking. As an entrepreneur, you don't get that. You don't get someone to pat you on the back every 3 months to say, Alex, you're doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that support there. You have your safety net is yourself catching yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
So to have someone that every month you catch up with, or every 3 months you say, remember 3 months ago when we caught up and I said I was going to do this, I've done it.
Yeah.
You're accountable to someone else then, you know, and that really is a great way to make sure that you remain on track and focused. And it also, you'll find people that will want to be a part of your journey.
Yeah.
Especially in Australia where they all love seeing people have a go. I found the ecosystem here to be phenomenal.
I couldn't agree
No
more.
matter who you talk to, it's just, how's everything going? Are you on track? Like, what's been happening? How can I help? I mean, that question, how can I help? I don't think I've ever been asked.
Yeah,
I've never been asked that.
I couldn't agree more. The amount of support that I've had from just friends,
Yeah.
from family, from colleagues, from people that you randomly bump into
Yes.
is astounding. And I think that it's a few things, but I think a part of that is the core, you know, Australian belief of like wanting the underdog to succeed.
Absolutely,
And people
right.
love buying into that story of someone giving it a shot, and they want to help you, and that's phenomenal. And that's one of the things that I learned. I was so overwhelmed with the amount of support that I received.
Yes.
Now, whenever I see opportunities to help others,
Yeah.
I want to give them the same thing that they've given me.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
it's so rewarding, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where
Definitely.
everyone starts helping each other achieve, and then as a collective, we can raise the bar. And I think, you know, the Australians can start to compete with like Silicon Valley eventually. We have the smarts, we have the resources, we have, you know, we may not have some of the funds that are available, but there's no reason. I think, like, you know, River City Labs, where we're at now, like
Oh, for
these
sure.
kind of projects, in
Yeah.
5, 10, 15 years, Australia is going to really produce some amazing outputs.
Oh, absolutely. We're in the most exciting time for small businesses and entrepreneurs, because there's never been so much support for people like us to do what we're doing. And there's a great buzz, there's great momentum now for people to take a shot on a little startup, to say, well, these guys could be the next Facebook, or they could be the next Twitter.